Okay, today we're going to be making macaroni and cheese from scratch. The best way to do it, because you can put any kind of cheese that you want in it, okay? And it's also lower in sodium, and there are no preservatives or additives or artificial coloring, which a lot of people could be allergic to. So first thing you're going to do is you're going to start your very large saucepan with very, very hot water. Okay, this is going to make your job a lot easier, so it's not going to take as long to boil. You want it at least halfway here, so about 2 quarts of water. And we're just going to put a large fire on there. And a very important rule of thumb, guys, is that you never put pasta in water until it's already started to boil. Okay, that's really important. Otherwise it's going to stick, it's going to get all messy. So now the other thing we want to do is we want to put some salt in the water. Now even if you don't have a measuring cup, if you just cup your hand and you put some salt in there, that's about a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so you want to put salt in the water, otherwise the pasta is going to swell up, it's going to be bland, and it won't absorb any more flavor. So you want salt in the water to help with the flavor. Now, as you're waiting for your pasta water to boil, okay, you're going to portion out about 2 cups of macaroni. And there's no rule that you have to use elbow macaroni. You can use any kind of pasta you want, it's just traditional. So for your recipe, it's going to be 2 cups. I'm just going to put them right here on the plate. And it's just 2 cups, you know, just right up to the top, not heaping or anything like this. Okay? So we're just going to put it off to the side for now. Okay, now, while you're waiting for that to cook, to get going, we can go ahead and get started on the sauce. The sauce, remember, is a roux. Alright, roux, and that's a French word for making a paste with fat, and it can be any kind of fat. Okay, so if you find yourself in a land where there's only duck fat, you use duck fat. If you only have lard, you use lard. If you have butter, just use butter. So we're just using some margarine here, just easier. If you like the taste of butter, you can use butter. Okay. And 1/4 cup of flour. Okay, this is how we're going to make our roux. It's just basically a paste, and it's a base for all sauces, starting with the white sauce. Okay, so okay. Now what you want to do is you put your fire on the pan, and you want to cook this until the margarine or the butter or whatever fat you have in here is melted, and get it nice and blended with your flour. Because the flour, if you've ever tasted flour all by itself, it has that uncooked starchy flavor to it, taste to it. So you want to try to get that starchy taste out. And you need to melt the margarine first and get that going. But since we're not dealing with a lot, I don't want you to overcook it. So you need to make sure that you're watching your pot very closely. It does take time, but we're going to be very cautious here. Okay, so we're just going to melt it down. It's almost ready. It's almost melted. Okay. Now, for your sake, just to make sure you don't burn your product, as soon as the margarine is melted, just turn the fire off and take it off the fire. That's it. So we're going to be, you know, just being very cautious here. Okay, so now you have your roux. It's at your station on top of a cutting board. And we're going to add the rest of our ingredients to it. So we're going to add in 1 cup of milk. And I have here, this is 2%. 2% milk. Now, of course, when you put it in, it's not going to look like it's mixing. That's normal. You can put your spices in there. I'm going to put a dash of nutmeg. Nutmeg is one of those classic spices that go with, I like a lot. It goes with white sauce. And then we're just going to put a little bit of cayenne pepper. Be careful. We only want just a gentle glow of warmth in here. We don't want hot and spicy. If you want hot and spicy, just put it on your own dish. Okay? And then we can just go ahead and put in the pepper. You can put more in later. And then we also need to put salt. Okay, so we have salt in the water, but we don't have salt for our dish. So again, just a little handful, you know, in the cup of your hand here, 1 teaspoon of salt. Then we're going to put in 1/4 cup of Parmesan cheese. And I know you're thinking, wow, aren't you going to mix it? Actually, this is kind of one of those neat little recipes that for some reason it just blends really well. So you don't have to worry about it too much. You don't have to keep stirring and cooking and everything else. So we're just going to put in 1 cup of shredded cheddar cheese. Now at home, if you like something a little bit stronger, then you can go ahead and put sharp cheddar. You can put pepper jack cheese. You can put brie, any kind of cheese you want. Whatever is your fancy, it's going to go in there. Alright, so now all we're going to do now, because we have all of our ingredients, we're just going to wait for the pasta to cook. Over here we have our water. You can see that it's starting to bubble a little bit, so it's safe enough to go ahead and put our pasta in. So I'm just going to sprinkle the pasta in. Alright, and then I want to stir it. Okay, so I'm just going to give it a quick stir. And it has to cook for 10 minutes. Do not cook it more than 10 minutes because then you're going to end up with mushy macaroni and cheese because it's going to continue to cook once you put it all with the other ingredients. Okay, with your milk and the cheeses and everything, it's going to continue to cook. Alright, so we're just going to wait for that and then I'll show you something else to put as a topping. We're going to start now with our topping. This is purely optional. And you can do different kinds of toppings if you want to. This one is just seasoned breadcrumbs. Okay? And now that I think about it, they're a little bit on the salty side, so I probably should have gotten unseasoned and just seasoned it yourself. But anyway, it's okay. So you have about 1/4 cup of seasoned breadcrumbs and a little dollop of margarine. We don't want too much. Okay? We have our breadcrumbs, a little bit of margarine. I'm going to put it on the fire. Okay, so now, just going to let the margarine melt. Let's keep that fire down. Alright. So we're basically just want to get the crumbs wet. Alright. I kind of like panko breadcrumbs a little bit better because they're larger and it gives a little bit more of a crunch. This gives a nice flavor to it. And if you were to use unsalted butter, it probably would be a little bit better because it's not as salty. So, here's what we're going to do. We're just going to try to get this all blended together. The pan was a little bit cold, so it's going to take time for the pan to warm up. When you see that it's all mixed up, and of course I know you want it a little bit on the brown side, you have to take it off the fire before it gets to the color you want. And why do you think? There's carryover heat. The carryover heat is going to continue to cook your breadcrumbs. And then it's like, uh-oh, now it's burnt. So, yeah, you just have to throw it away if it's burnt. Because you don't want burnt flavor in your food. So, we're almost to that point where the breadcrumbs are saturated with the margarine. You want to have that nice crumbly look to it. You don't want it to look pasty, you want it to look crumbly. So now since the breadcrumbs are already a cooked product, we don't have to worry about a starchy flavor. So now we're just about at the point where the breadcrumbs are going to start turning brown. And what I want to do is just take it off the fire because I know it's going to continue to cook and I'm fine with that. So I don't have to worry about it. I'm just going to put it off to the side and let it rest. Alright, now I'm looking at my pasta and I'm thinking, well, is it done or not? So how do I want to check it? So I'm just going to take one of the noodles out, right here, and I'm going to cut it. Come over here. Now, if I cut this pasta and I see a white line in there,
you don't want the white stuff.
I don't really see a white line in there.
I know, I should see it on fire.
It looks like it's done. Ow! Ouch! Just kidding. Okay, we're fine. I'm fine. I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Okay. So now, here's how you're going to do it. We're not taking the pot out to drain it or anything. You get your measuring cup, and just before you do anything, you're just going to reserve a little pasta water. And then you're going to fish out the pasta directly into your pot that has all the milk and the cheeses and the seasonings in it. Okay? That's what you're going to do. And just let it drain a little bit. So what I want to do is try to get the majority of the pasta out before we do anything else. And you have to be really careful, because if you wanted to drain the pasta a little bit once we get towards the end, remember this part is cold, that is hot. And you have to use a pot holder. Okay, so if you want to have 2 people doing this, that would probably be a good idea, because this is taking a while. Alright, so now it's gotten to the point where it's a little difficult to keep fishing it out. So I'm going to drain this a little bit. What you do? Stop. What you want to do is just very slowly drain off the hot water. Make sure the steam doesn't go in your face so you can see what you're doing. And you want to do it very slowly so that you don't get any pasta in the sink. Okay, so we've been stirring for about 2 minutes. And as you can see, now everything has come together. It's this nice homogeneous mix. And the pasta is still cooking a little bit, which is fine. And it's starting to thicken up. Now, if you really want a really rich mac and cheese, then you can put in some heavy cream if you want to. Now, what other people do, if you have time, now obviously in the classroom it's kind of difficult to do this, but they'll put the mac and cheese in a casserole dish and then sprinkle it over with breadcrumbs and maybe extra cheese. They might fold in crumbled up bacon into it, or anything else that they can think of. Everything is good in this. So this is pretty much done. Okay, so now the next thing I want to do, and if you want to, you don't have to. See, this is still pretty juicy, so you don't really need the pasta water at this point. But if it was sitting around a little bit, I guarantee that the pasta is going to absorb up all this liquid, and you would need pasta water. Okay? So now I just want to get my crumbs here, and I'm just going to sprinkle them over the top. If this were a casserole dish, it would be a really nice presentation. Okay? And certainly you can make your own with just dry bread and a little bit of parsley, a little butter, etc. Okay, and that's it. You just test for seasoning and you're ready to eat. There you go, macaroni and cheese from scratch. No MSG and no preservatives, no artificial coloring. Enjoy!
Bye!